Hello and welcome to an all-new adult erotica in comics. You're watching Spawn82. I am Scotty, your underground comic-loving friend, and I think I got a pretty good video for you guys this week. This week I'm going to be talking about a women's icon, a legend in underground comics. She was an artist, she was a writer, she was the author of many books. She was a mother, she was a fashion designer. She was friends with so many rock stars. She designed Vampirella's outfit for Frank Frazetta. All this and so much more. We're going to talk about all of it in today's video. Of course, I'm talking about Trina Robbins. Stick around. Her name has come up in so many of my other videos. I knew that I had to cover Trina Robbins in a video sooner or later. I'm glad that it was sooner. I've learned so much putting the research together for this video, and I'm getting ready to share it with you guys, so I hope that you enjoy. Trina Robbins was born Trina Perlson on August 17th of 1938 in Brooklyn, New York City. Her parents were Jewish immigrants who were originally from Belarus. Her father worked as a tailor and her mother an elementary school teacher. For most of Trina's adolescent life, she would live in South Ozone Park, Queens. As she was growing up, Trina always had a fascination with comic book heroines, especially Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. She also really enjoyed going to science fiction conventions. After graduating high school, she would attend Queens College, but would end up dropping out. She then attended Cooper Union for a year, a science and art school, and she studied drawing. Through the 50s and 60s, Trina would do illustrations for science fiction magazines, such as Habakkuk, which was Hugo nominated. For a period of time in the early 60s, Trina would move across country to Los Angeles. She would be a nude model for men's magazines. Around the same time, she would also marry a man named Paul J. Robbins, and that's where she would get the Robbins from. They would later divorce, but she would carry the Robbins last name throughout the rest of her life. Around 1966, Trina would move back across the country to Manhattan, New York. Around this time, she would then work as a stylist, and she ran a clothing boutique called Broccoli. Trina had quite the eye for fashion, designing outfits and clothing for famous acts of the era, such as Mama Cass of the Mamas and the Papas, as well as David Crosby and so many other acts as well. She was a woman in the music scene at the time, very intimately, some might say. She was really close friends with Jim Morrison and even members of the Byrds. Trina Robbins has even been immortalized in a song. Robbins was the first of three Ladies of the Canyon in the classic Joni Mitchell song from the album of the same name. In 1966 is when Trina's comic book career would officially begin. Her first works were printed in East Village Other, and she also contributed to the spin-off underground comic titled Gothic Blimpworks in 1969. I mentioned this in one of my past videos. During this same year, Trina would design a one-piece costume for Warren Publishing character Vampirella for Frank Frazetta's issue 1 in September of 1969. The next year, Trina would move back across country. This time, it was San Francisco, California. And during this time, she would work at the feminist underground newspaper, It Ain't Me, Babe. And during this same year, in 1970, Trina would produce the very first all-woman comic book, the one-shot It Ain't Me, Babe comics. She would do so in collab with fellow female artist Barbara Willie Mendez. The comic focused heavily on gender stereotypes and feminist satire. Robbins would continue creating outlets for and to promote other female artists. She would do so with comic book series such as Women's Comics. This was a project that she would continue to be involved with for over 20 years. Women's Comics was the first comic book to ever feature an out lesbian. They do so in the comic strip by Robbins herself titled Sandy Comes Out. Trina was also a contributor to the San Francisco underground paper Good Times, alongside Harry Driggs and Guy Caldwell. Robbins spoke out against the misogyny and boys' club of comic creators, criticizing Robert Crumb for the perceived misogyny of many of his comics. In the early 80s, Trina created adaptations of Sax Rohmer's Dope and Kenneth Lee's The Silver Medal Lover. In the mid-80s, she both wrote and drew Misty for Marvel Comics' children's imprint, Star Comics. It went for a total of 6 issues, from December of 1985 to October of 1986, and was a reinterpretation of the long-standing character Millie the Model. Now, it was also around this same time period in 86 when Trina would get the opportunity to draw Wonder Woman for a series written by Kurt Busiek called The Legend of Wonder Woman. It was a 4-issue series that paid homage to the character's golden age roots. Now, she would follow the 6-issue series Misty with a very similar comic book in 1987 for Eclipse Comics, and it was called California Girls. It ran for 8 issues, and it went from 1987 through 1988. In 1989, Trina appeared in Wonder Woman Annual Issue 2 as herself. In 1990, Robbins edited and contributed, along with an all-star list of contributors, to a benefit comic anthology titled Pro-Choice. This was done for the National Organization of Women. Trina published this on her own imprint, Angry Iris Press. Now, Trina could sometimes be a very vocal person. She had strong opinions and wasn't afraid to voice them. And she was very vocal about Mike Deodato's bad girl art portrayal of Wonder Woman, calling Deodato's version of the character barely clothed hypersexual pinup. In the late 90s, she collabed with Colleen Doran on a graphic novel about Wonder Woman for DC titled Wonder Woman, The Once and Future Story, on the subject of spousal abuse. Trina was also the author of many nonfiction books on the history of women in cartooning. Women in the Comics was her first book, but it would be followed by many more through the 90s and even 2000s. Some of these titles would include A Century of Women Cartoonists, The Great Women Superheroes, From Girls to Girls, A History of Women's Comics from Teens to Zines, The Great Women Cartoonists, and Pretty in Ink. And that's just naming a few. There are more than that. Trina Robbins has received so many accolades. She's achieved so many things in her 85 years on this earth. Her groundbreaking work includes 3 Lulu of the Year awards, a John Buscema Hoster Award, my apologies, a Firecracker Alternative Book Award, a Inkpot Award, and in 2013 was one of 6 inductees into the Will Eisner Hall of Fame. Trina Robbins had tried marriage, didn't work out for her. That's where she got the last name Robbins from. She carried that last name throughout the rest of her life. She had a daughter. She had a daughter with cartoonist Kim Deitch. She had a lover and partner, being with artist Steve Linloha, from 1977 all the way through her death in 2024. She was an activist, a pioneer, a fashion designer, a muse. She was outspoken and stood up for what she believed in and what she felt in her heart was right. She's a woman's icon. She achieved so much in her 85 years on this earth. Robbins died after a stroke in San Francisco on April 10th of 2024. This video was a real pleasure for me to make. I really enjoyed learning about Miss Robbins and her life and her artwork. If you took something away from this, if you learned something during this video, please hit that like button. Please make sure you're subscribed so that you'll catch future videos. I drop a new video every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I want to thank my channel members. We have 12 channel members. We had a new channel member join this past month, or a couple weeks ago to be exact. But want to shout out the channel members, so I'll throw it up on the screen here. I really appreciate you guys. Your $1.99 a month helps me with the channel. It helps me do my donations monthly to CADIS, a local rehab center here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we donate basic necessities to new people that are entering treatment who may need it. And I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, channel members. And thank you guys for watching the video. I hope that you guys will come back next week where I will create a new video about a new creator. And have a great week, guys. Later. Peace.